All right, guys. So I felt like I needed to make a video recap of the Bighorn 100 mile mountain race, which it was a week ago, last Friday. And so, long story short, I made it 66 miles. And it was a combination of missing the cutoff by 15 minutes and tapping out at Sally's Footbridge, which was the aid station you had to get to. Um, because by the end, I think the last few miles, my miles were like 40 minutes. Like I couldn't even, I had nothing left. I was completely destroyed. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot from the process. So ultimately, um, what the stats are going to show is that it was a failure. But I learned so much, and I put so much of my time and effort into this going into it that it was just like a massive learning experience. And it's one of those things, whether it's lifting or running or whatever, it can be applied to both. Experience is the best teacher. I hadn't done an ultra marathon since 2009, and I learned a ton. So there was the lack of experience, and a lot of things cropped up on race day that were not there um, going into the race, that were not things I saw in training. So until you get out there and you get put in the pressure cooker, you just can't plan for these things necessarily to the same degree you would if you once you face them. So just having race experience would have helped, and now knowing the course, if I ever want to give it another shot as far as redemption, which I'll think about, and I'll get into that why, I think it would go much better. And if I were to go out and try to redeem myself and come back and knock this out, I do think it would go much better knowing what I know now, knowing the course, all that sort of stuff. But that would probably be 2 years down the road. And the training, this is the ironic part. I ran a peak of 102 miles in a week. And I think did way too much junk volume in training. I ran way too many miles. So it's similar to the concept of junk volume in lifting. If you're doing a bunch of mindless exercises for no reason and training every day, what's the point of that? Someone could train way less than you, but by training smarter and not harder, they'll blow you out of the water. And a lot of people blew me out of the water at this race by training smarter, not harder. I was the guy training harder, was racking up miles, crazy high mileage, and just trying to kill myself going into it with nothing but hilly training runs, but it didn't pay off. So I think if I did this again, I would cut way down on the mileage. So the peak mileage week might be like 65, 68 miles as opposed to 102. So I could probably literally run a third less time than I did in training and put all that effort into lifting. And I really slacked on lifting over the last 2 months because the mileage was so tiresome. I just felt like, oh, I don't need to lift. I'm just so destroyed from doing hill runs and hill repeats, stuff like that. But ironically, there's this massive climb to start out the race. It's like 4,000 feet in like 4 miles. And at the top of that, at mile 7.5, I started getting the worst cramps ever. My VMO, vastus medialis, cramped to a degree I've never felt before. My quad literally looked like it was torn. It looked like it was indented completely into my inner thigh. Never seen that before. And I collapsed on the side of the trail. And a lot of people got past me at this point, and they were like, "Are you all right, man?" Everybody was super nice. And I'm like, "It's just cramps, whatever." So I get up to try to stretch this out. I'm like, I'll stretch my quads. When I try to stretch my quad with that standing quad stretch, my hamstring locks. So my hamstring and quad are cramping at the same time. I'm screwed. There's nothing I can do. So I took a bunch of salt tabs, waited it out, drank a ton, was eating crackers, whatever I could do to try to get this to go away, rubbing on it. And then 8.5, it happened again, mile 8.5, and I fell into a marsh. There was a marsh on the side of the trail. I collapsed straight into it. Both quads at this point were cramping. Both hamstrings were cramping. Double quad cramps, double hamstring cramps at the same time. The left leg was way worse. People are offering me salt tabs. I took like 6 of them. And at this point, and over the course of the race, I took 50 electrolyte caps over the course of the race. I took at least 50. So I was taking these things constantly. I was peeing clear for most of the race. I was hydrated. I had tailwind, water, a lot of soda as well for calories. And the hydration was there, tons of electrolytes, but this cramping issue kind of threw the race off right from the beginning. So right from the beginning, I slowed my pace down because I was freaked out. I was going to keep cramping. And this was the part where it's almost one of the only runnable sections of the course. Like the terrain is indescribable. I thought this was going to be very tough coming in. It was twice as hard as I could have expected. There are sections of 100 yards of shin-deep mud that you're going through, and these keep coming up time and time again. There's rocks and boulders you're climbing over. The course was never flat. There were no flat sections ever. It was up or down. There was no choice, no other choice. So the actual like very runnable sections of the course maybe consisted of 25, 30 miles total of the 100. The rest of it, like, you're either hiking and going at a very slow pace because it's impossible to go fast. You can't run through shin-deep mud. You can't run over boulders that are going up. You can't necessarily run on all the downhills when it's nothing but rocks and you're going to fall and like break everything. You can't go that fast. So this slows your pace down tremendously. I mean, I ran hills in training, but nothing like this technical with just constant deterrence in the way. So I slowed down too much on one of the only runnable sections. I took my time. The cutoffs get more aggressive deeper in the race. So early on in the race, it's very easy to meet the cutoffs at the aid stations. Later in the race, it gets very difficult. So I went too slow at this point, trying to conserve my energy and not cramp, and that cost me later on. So the cramping, ironically, is not caused by electrolyte imbalances or dehydration. It's often caused by like a lack of lifting, a lack of direct stimulation to those muscle groups. So had I done a lot of Bulgarian split squats, lunges, step-ups, that sort of stuff, I bet the cramps would not have been a thing, but I slacked on that. So if I were to take another stab at this, I'd do way more unilateral exercises, way more squats, way more lifting, and I would also do way less running. I would also do like a weighted vest running. I would do weighted vest incline walking to condition my legs. My legs were not strong enough and ready for this terrain. The terrain whooped my butt easily. The other thing that went wrong, the gels around mile 27, I was subsiding on like about 250 calories an hour, 2 gels, and then liquid calories. And the gels just started causing massive problems as far as having to go to the bathroom. So peeing is one thing, that's whatever. But when you have to basically go to the bathroom constantly, it starts to get extremely painful and uncomfortable. And this went on for the next 30 freaking miles. So big problem there. I would switch up the gels to Morton's because Morton's just digest a lot better. They're made for that. And then I would take Imodium beforehand. Didn't know about any of this. Didn't know this was going to be a problem. It was never a problem in training. Cramping was never a problem in training. That seriously derailed things because I couldn't take in as much fuel at that point, and I was having to pull off trail to, basically go in the woods. And we're not talking peeing. So that just made it a disaster. Those two things were the biggest problems. Then around mile 55, my feet blew up on me. So my shins, or my shoes were causing a lot of friction and rubbing, and basically my heels developed these massive blisters, and then the bottom of my feet developed massive blisters. Now I used Injinji toe socks, which prevented blisters on my toes in training, and they worked great. They actually held up great, but the shoe choice was poor because the friction was causing so many blisters. I put like a layer of like it's the equivalent of Vaseline, but it's this run specific stuff. I rubbed it over my feet beforehand to lube them up basically and prevent blisters. But your feet are never dry in this race. There's like 25 stream crossings, river crossings, and constant mud. And I can't describe what I mean by constant mud. It's not just a little bit of mud that it's up to your freaking shins. Like, your feet are never dry. So these blisters developed, and every step became excruciating from mile 55 on. It was a death march to get back to the aid station, because if you don't finish the race, there's only 3 access points on the whole race where you can basically get a ride out. That's how remote this is. So you can't just be like, oh, I'm destroyed and drop out. Like, you have to march back to one of these spots, death crawl, to get a ride out. And I had to do that. And that's why it was taking me like 40-minute miles. I was smoked. My feet hurt every step. And it was still up and down. There was never a flat. And I had no energy. It was just brutal. So a lot of lessons learned at this. Things I would change. Footwear, 100%. Get the best shoes possible. That's the number one key. Keep your feet well. Imodium beforehand. My fuel sources would be dialed in better to not get this issue of having to poop constantly. And it was hurt like crazy at that point after you go a million times. And then also the cramping issue just by doing way more weight training. So those are the things I would change. and I think it would go much more smoothly. I don't necessarily think it was a matter of fitness. I think my fitness was extremely good going in. I think it was a lot of things I was unprepared for, and a lack of strength in my legs. Now, here I am sitting here a week later. I feel decent. I've started hitting the weights hard again, which is going to be the plan. I have started to, and this made me realize, seeing professional runner guys like Brock Covington and Jeremy Miller, two of my buddies, and seeing how well they did, it made me realize, like, you got to take every aspect of training serious. You cannot, you got to listen to your coach. They both had coaches. I didn't have a coach. Coaching helps, no doubt about it. It keeps you from doing stupid things like I did with my training. Helps you look at the issues that are going to crop up, all this sort of stuff. So I would have a coach again going in. I would not do stupid stuff. I would weight train a lot harder. Diet. This literally sold me. Like, I'm not going to take my diet for granted anymore. And ever since I've been back, I've been eating extremely clean. Beef and rice, cottage cheese with berries, Greek yogurt with berries, protein powder, protein Quest bars, things like that. Some English muffins, which you could, draw the line on healthy or not. But I've been really cleaning it up, and I feel amazing, better energy than I've had. My physique is the leanest it's been. My strength seems to feel like it's been a couple days of lifting. It's hard to gauge already, but I feel tremendous. I think my strength will skyrocket getting back into training, and we'll be able to take things to a whole different level with training and with my physique and all that sort of stuff. So that's what I'm banking on. I'm going to take it serious. I'm not going to screw around with diet anymore. I'm 200 pounds right now. So I'm actually lighter by having my diet better and not having ran since the race than I was when I was doing 15-mile runs every day and eating whatever. So it's crazy. Like, obviously, a lot of you guys take your diet very seriously, and I think that's going to be a huge thing moving forward. I am, training-wise, what I'm doing 2 upper body days per week, Monday and Thursday. Tuesday is the squat day with lower body accessories. Friday is the deadlift day with lower body accessories. That is the game plan. I'm doing a heavily focus on the McGill Big 3 to keep my back healthy, and I'm going to compete at some point here in powerlifting. I'm very motivated. I'm super stoked to be back lifting, doing this kind of stuff. I will run Wednesdays and Saturdays. Probably at this point, I want to get a weighted vest, a 30-pound weighted vest, and make those like 4 to 5 mile weighted vest runs. But that's what I'm going to do. That's pretty much the split coming up here. I will have a lot of training footage on my Instagram and on this channel in the months to come. I'm taking it more serious than ever, all this. So if you guys want to check that out, I put up some clips on Instagram. I'll put some shorts up on here. Appreciate the support. Let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you like the message and everything. Like the video, subscribe. Give me your comments on what do you guys think about the race? What do you guys think about the diet changes? Is that going to help substantially from those of you who have been eating that way for a while? And what do you think of the training split? Let me know what you think of all that. I'll keep it coming, guys. Thank you.